All right. Hey, everybody. I am here with Joe Casabona today. So if you're watching you've got options. I don't know where you're watching from, but if you're watching either on Facebook, on our YouTube live stream, we're also live streaming to LinkedIn and Twitter right now. So we're all over the place, just so the folks can find us. But yeah, let us know. Go ahead and comment and say hi, and we should be able to see those comments come in over here. So welcome. We are here today with Joe Casabona. So Joe Casabona is our expert on podcasting and automation. So we had a lot of people here last week when we spoke with Lindsay Halsey. This week we're talking with Joe Casabona. I believe next week we'll be back again with Trisha, Trisha Clemens on Google Business Profile. That might be the following week, but I'll check. And as long as you're signed up to our newsletter, you'll get the update on that. So I see we've got Rob Cairns here. Hey Rob, good to see you. Thanks for joining. Yeah, so I will do a quick little spiel and then I'll let Joe get to it and I'll get on out of the way. For anyone watching who isn't familiar with us at GoWP, we like to say that we create happiness for digital agencies to help them to become more profitable. So whether it's through this content that we produce and create and partner with amazing people like Joe Casabona, who is, as I said in the email today, if you didn't get it, synonymous with podcasting and gadgets and tools and hacks and all of that kind of stuff. Or it's through our services where you can grow your team with a dedicated developer, copywriter, designer, virtual assistant. We're here to help you grow your agency. And we'd love to have conversations with how we can help. So feel free to reach out anytime. But without further ado, we're going to get to Joe. So Joe is our expert on podcasting and automations. Today, he's going to be talking about his automated process for guest scheduling on his podcast. And I know we've had some folks comment in the Facebook group that they're really interested in learning more about this and starting a podcast. So there is also the option of just general questions, Q&A. So if you have questions, put them in the chat, put them in the comments, and we'll get to those. But yeah, Joe, take it away.
Thanks, Emily. First of all, that intro was super cool. I don't know who animated that for you, but it's pretty neat. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited. Hey, Rob, in the comments here. Quick point of order. I know that if I'm using Ecamm Live, the LinkedIn comments do not show up in line. Do you know if the LinkedIn comments show up in line here?
I am not sure. I know that there are issues with showing who they're coming from. I'm not sure if they don't show up at all, though. I haven't seen that notification. But I'll have it open. I'll go after I get my video off here. I'll go check all the live streams you have going so I can gather any comments that aren't coming through.
All right. Sounds great. Yeah. So I will do my thing. And then if there are questions that come up, I'm happy to answer them. I know that we had one already in the Facebook group around using YouTube for podcasting. And so I will give my quick thoughts on that as a little preamble. I really wish I wrote down the name now, but I'm a Stu Gotts and I forgot to do that. But okay, so generally, right? I think there's a couple of things, right? I think that if you're going to leverage YouTube for your podcast, which I absolutely think that you should do, you should not just upload the video to YouTube and then say it's your podcast. And it's not like, I don't take the hard line that some people do of like, oh, if it's on YouTube, it's not a podcast. It's that you want your podcast to be everywhere, including YouTube. And so there are services out there like Transistor.fm, for example, that will automatically take your podcast feed and upload it to YouTube. And actually, you know what? I can show you that I have the ability to share a screen. I can share the screen. I've got, I think, Skycam going on somewhere. Maybe not. Maybe my Ecamm Live source, Ecamm Live virtual cam is what I want. And then I can do Skycam up here. Hi. You can see how messy my office is, which is why I have this tight shot on me. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. That was a huge mistake. Let me know if this looks okay. I suppose, Emily, since I can hear you, that you would be the best person to let me know if this looks terrible, and then I can just do the restream sharing. But I'm going to log into Transistor here. This is my podcast platform of choice lately. I like it a lot. And one of the integrations it has is with YouTube. So you can connect your YouTube channel. It will automatically send these published episodes. So anything that is published in your feed, it'll send it to YouTube. And then if we go to YouTube, you can see what that looks like here. Uh, Probably how I built it is the actual channel I want. Yeah, so you can see here, that, so what's happening here, right, is the images are automatically or the episodes are automatically getting uploaded. I then have my VA change the thumbnail cover so that I don't have a wall of the same exact thumbnail cover. You can do that yourself, but I have my VA go in, once these are, again, automatically uploaded by Transistor. If you don't wanna use Transistor, there's another service called repurpose.io that will do the same thing with any feed. So that is, I think, your best option for YouTube. Um, awesome. See, looks good. All right, awesome. So if you want to have the actual video interview available on YouTube, that's going to take a little bit more effort. And when you're starting off, here's what I'm going to recommend. First of all, I think you should use a service like Riverside because banging my mic. Full disclosure, Riverside has sponsored my podcast in the past, but they are also who I use for my podcast. The reason I like Riverside so much is because they'll do the recording, they'll record everything locally, and then splice them together. So again, if I show you, since this is a live stream, we can show and tell. Um, if I show you what's going on here, I'll use the Profitable Podcaster since that's a shorter episodes. I do these live coaching calls on the Profitable Podcaster, and so you could see I've got video with Trudy and me, and then I have these clips created. So you could see I have like a social clip right here that I can publish if I want, and then I have the full video clip. So they'll let you do a little bit of editing here. You can download it. You can, holy smokes, you can push it to Transistor. That's wild. Okay, anyway, sorry, I didn't realize that I just got on Transistor recently. So you could push it to Transistor or YouTube. And so what I'd recommend if you're looking for the easiest workflow possible here is do everything in Riverside. You can also do it in like Squadcast or Zencaster are two other options. Um, Download the video, upload that to YouTube, and then extract the audio and upload that to your podcast feed. A little bit more work, but you do have the actual video component there. So that is if you are the screen. Okay. The screen appears to be mirrored, is what I'm hearing. So yes, that does make sense, and it's probably because I have mirror camera on. So let's see, that's better. Okay, perfect. Um, so lost my train of thought for a sec. Okay, yeah. So again, if you're looking for the easiest path, I think that if you just want the episodes on YouTube, use a host like Transistor. Castos also does this. And have it automatically upload the audio with a thumbnail to YouTube. If you do want the actual video component, then use a tool like Riverside to get both videos, right? Because the nice thing about Riverside is it'll sync everything up. Like you can use, if you record in Zoom, you can then edit with Descript and upload to YouTube and then separately to your podcast feed. But if you're looking for that one sweeping motion, I think that doing the audio only over on Transistor is going to be your best bet. All right, so that was really long. I hope that is helpful to whomever asked that. I know the name is, I think the name is somewhere here in the event. So should probably try to find that because that's the nice thing to do. I'm very sorry I didn't write down your name, but I can get it right here. Christine. Christine, thank you for your question. I appreciate it. Okay. So let's get to the main event here. Uh, make sure that there's no Riverside versus Zencaster messaging matters show. That looks like Todd Jones's avatar. Um, oh, see, I see. Emily's sending me messages here, and she knows. She's got the information already. That's why she's the best. Um, Thoughts on Riverside versus Zencaster. Okay, so I recently learned that Zencaster has made a bunch of changes. And so my disclosure here is that I have not used Zencaster in a number of years. But they are, for all intents and purposes, similar products, right? So what they will both purport to do is allow you to run interviews, video interviews, or audio only, and record both your video and audio locally on your computer and locally on your guest computer. The big benefit and the reason you want to do this is because those are not subject to compression. So you will get the best possible quality for your audio and video. It's also not subject to things like robot voice, right? Where like you get that like really like digitally sounding voice that is like an artifact, like
it kind of sounds like this.
Where it's going to sound bad because it's like subject to the internet, right? So both of them purport to do the same thing. In my experience, Riverside has been more reliable. So it has been. I haven't had any problems. I haven't lost any recordings. Anytime there were internet connection issues, they handled it better. I think it fails more gracefully than Zencaster does. So that's my 2 cents. And then the other thing is like they had a syncing issue when I used it, and they would Zencaster, and they basically said they might have fixed this. This is a couple years now, but they're like, oh yeah, well just tell your guests to like set their bit rate. And I'm like, I'm using you so that I don't have to tell my guest anything, right? If I was telling my guest something, I would just tell them to record in QuickTime for free. So those are my opinions. I think the prices are pretty comparable. There is a really generous free plan for creators. Creator Plus. This is strange. I don't know what they're trying to do here. But there is a really generous free plan with Zencaster. I think that Riverside's is less generously free. I'm logged in, so I can't actually see the pricing, which is something that drives me crazy. Like, have me log in someplace, and then when I want to go see the pricing, let me see the pricing. They have a comparable generous free plan as well. So, the last thing I'll say about Riverside is they just rolled out a really interesting AI transcription tool. It sounds like they're trying to eat Descript's lunch, where you can edit by deleting text. When I tried it, it didn't work as well as Descript, but this is like the first time around. If I'm trying to create clips, that might be more convenient for me. So, in my experience, Riverside is really better at handling a lot of things, and I'm a big fan of it. And I think I disclosed that they've sponsored me before, but that doesn't affect how I feel about them because my whole podcast relies on them. If they failed, I'd be like, well, they suck. Okay. All right. So let's actually get to the automation stuff. So, fun thing about this form in Gravity Forms. I'll give you the pieces and then the general flow of things. I use Gravity Forms because that's what I have. You can use anything you'd like. But this guest submission form here has a bunch of stuff, a bunch of questions I like to ask. There's also this hidden field for invited. And so if I send somebody a special link that fills out this hidden field as invited, this is the biggest and best change I think I've made here. I've got two separate confirmations, right? So if they applied but were not invited, they get redirected to a thanks for applying page. If they were invited, they get redirected to my Calendly link. And the fun part about this is that everything is like the whole form is automatically filled out, which I just think is the bee's knees. So if I go to that URL, right, invited is set to true, and then I can fill out the form here. What am I doing? I have a bunch of text expander snippets. Actually, somebody just started mowing their lawn outside my window. Maybe you can't hear it though. Anyway, so filling this out, uploading the headshot. This is another thing I decided to do up front is collect the headshot. At this point, my guests get an email about an hour after you record where I ask them for their headshot. But that doesn't always work out. And so getting it on the front end allows me to have it without having to chase them down. So anyway, a couple of links here, whatever. All right, so this is I'm invited. So when I click submit, I get taken to the Calendly link. I pick a time. Everything I just filled out in that form, except for the disclosures, the agreements, is filled out already because you can send all of this stuff through a URL, which I think is just amazing. And the reason I do it here is because I want to use the same form for both guests, but I want to do different things with it. And so I can send that stuff to Airtable automatically, which is what I'll show you in a second. But if they weren't invited, they get redirected to a generic thank you page. And again, if they weren't invited, they see different fields. Like I don't ask them for their social links up front. I ask them, like, why do you think you'd be a good guest, and what do you want to talk about? So that is the Gravity Forms form. You could do the same thing with like Jot form and I think Typeform, but I chose Gravity Forms. Then I've got two automations here. One that kicks off with Gravity Forms and one that kicks off with Calendly. So all of this goes to Airtable. It's super important for me that everything lives in Airtable. So Gravity Forms, watch entries. If you don't know, what Make is formerly Integromat. It is a alternative to Zapier. The reason I like Make more than Zapier has a lot to do with the user experience, but also the cost. I was paying about $75 a month for Zapier, and I pay less than $11 a month for Make for the same amount of automations and functionality. Do I have Rob is saying, Joe, do you have a link? Do I have a link to you know what I'll do? I will compile everything I'm talking about into one happy link that I can send you all if that works. But Rob, if you want, let me know what kind of link. Oh, do I have a link to Make? It's make.com. I don't have an affiliate link. Maybe I do, but I don't have it at the ready. So make.com. Great name, horrible to Google. Because like when you write like make automation for Zapier, or make automation for Transistor, it's like how to make automations. So I will, when Googling, I still Google Integromat because that is a much more unique name than the word make. So make.com. Big fan of it. So and like this is what I like about it. Like it's a lot more visual or visually friendly. It has like this little explain flow thing Oh, you can't see that because I stopped sharing my screen. It has this little explain flow thing so you can see like how everything works. You can move things around better. But here's the first thing that happens. I run this every 3 hours. One of the things to watch out for, and I cover this on I have a blog, soloautomator.com, where I talk about some of this stuff, including like pitfalls for Make. So if you want to check out soloautomator.com, I have some resources there as well. But thing that the thing you need to watch out for with Make versus Zapier is the number of operations, the number of little tasks that run. They limit you based on that. And so I think it's for $10 a month, you get 10,000 tasks, which I'll just show you here. I use about like, let's say like generously, unless I'm testing something that goes like out of whack, around 200 a day. So you can do the quick math. I'm not even using half of my operations per month. Part of that is because I'm not having every automation run every 15 minutes. So with Gravity Forms, I have it watch the entries, and I pull the new entries every 3 hours. Then I route based on if they were invited or if they applied. So you can see some of the data. I guess you can't see some of the data. Don't mess this up. So you can see like in answers invited, if that equals to true, run this. If invited is not equal to true, run this path. And then I fill out all of the information in the Airtable base. Now, something cool I did here again is I include the Calendly link in the applied field, like if somebody applies. That way, when I email them, I can send them this link and everything that they filled out will also go to Calendly. So I thought that was pretty like a nice touch. And then if they were invited, I just fill out everything here. And everything's automatically added. So this is the first automation. The second automation is a lot more in depth and based on Calendly. So Calendly is, I think this is called Acid. Like it's an Acid automation. So this does run immediately as data arrives. I don't really understand the distinction. I don't really understand the distinction that they make. I don't know if it's just like that they have different deals or they feel like Calendly is more timely versus like other things. I don't know why some things are immediate and some are not, but Calendly is immediate. So I have it watching events. This is going to watch all of my events. And so when an event comes in, I then need to get the event details. This is like one weird thing I had to figure out. So this is going to watch all the events, and then I actually have to get which event it is. It doesn't send the name of the event. Let me see. Yeah, so okay. So like here's the data that it sends. Sorry, Lloyd. I'm like exposing his email address. Here's the data that it sends, which is most of the data I need. But what it doesn't send is the name of the event. So I have to get an event based on the ID. And then I can get the name of the event here. So like the name of this event is friends only, which doesn't route to anything. The reason I need the name of the event is because I have a couple of routes based on which event it is. If someone's booking a one-on-one with me, they get tagged as such in ConvertKit. If it's how I built it, right? And I'm like checking for that. Also like I need here's something else I had to add. Because anytime someone rescheduled, this automation was kicking off every time. And so this basically says like if this doesn't exist, then they're not rescheduling, right? Make sure. Okay, cool. So the first thing I do is if it is a how I built it event is create a show doc from a Google Docs template. Let me bring that up for you. Cool. I've been going to this one a lot, I guess. So you can create these templates with these little smart tags, double curly braces. So I have the information here. We can ignore Airtable record now. I'm not doing anything with that right now just because of the order in which I'm doing stuff. And I don't really need it because I'm linking. I'll show you the Airtable base in a minute. But so you could see like I have like name, email address, their website, topic, and then like where you can find them, et cetera, et cetera. The final results for this are going to look something like this, where you have the email address. Oh, this one was actually a little bit messed up. That's actually an old one. But the final results, let's go to trash because that's where I have more. Whatever. Yeah, there should be, maybe I deleted those forever. Anyway, the final results will look something like this, where it's more filled out. I've got like the topic, the information, and then I can fill out the rest of the show notes here. Shout out to Chris L. Davis. He's the person who inspired me to do this because his flow is also super cool. Okay, so then this is super fun because when this kicks off, I ran into an issue where if somebody is invited, they would get 2 records created. One when they fill out the Gravity form, and one when they fill out the Calendly, because they don't happen instantly. Well, the Gravity forms doesn't happen instantly. But with Make, you can run a scenario. And so I am explicitly running this scenario to get their record into Airtable first, because this allows me to update records based on the name. So I'll search for the guest name, which means that if they applied and were accepted, I already have their record here. And then I could fill it out with what they've filled out here. And I'm only updating the record to include their Google Docs link and the start time. So everything else gets added directly from Gravity Forms. But if they were invited, I was running into an issue where they'd have 2 separate records, one from the Gravity Forms automation, one from this automation. So with this, I am running the Gravity Forms automation first and then searching for that newly created record, which I thought was pretty fun and clever. Okay, so I know I just went through a lot here. Does anybody have any questions or any like clarification that you'd like me to make here? I know that there's like probably a 30-second delay, so I'll vamp a little bit. The reason I wanted to do it this way was I basically had 2 separate forms, and one was just a Calendly link, and one was this Airtable application form, where I wasn't collecting all of the data for like the data I was collecting from each guest was there was not parity between them. I was collecting different data from people I invited and different data from people who applied. And that's still kind of the case because I want people who apply to justify justify why they'd make a good guest, right? Because I get like a lot of founder stories and I'm like, I don't care about founder stories. Which is the reason I created this form in the first place, right? Like one of the first things I say here is I'm not interested in founder stories. I want actionable advice for my listeners. I say it's like free coaching calls from successful creators. And then I have a bunch of information about me. All of this is here because people still who fill out this form still think I'm How I Built This by Guy Raz. And they'll be like, I loved your interview with the Stitch Fix lady. And I'm like, that wasn't me. So like instant no there. So I think that's what I wanted, a more unified interface And the fact that I could pass form information to Calendly through the URL was like super interesting to me. Okay. Todd saying, feel free to send me the founder stories. Duly noted. I will refer people to your podcast for that. And the part of it is like I'm apparently I found out, right? I just asked, I'm like, hey, why do you're sending me this email? Why do you still think I do like tech founder stories when I haven't done that for like 2 years? And they're like, oh, you're in this database Muckraker, or I think it's called Muckraker. And like you're listed as a tech podcast that does founder stories. And I'm like, oh, well, they need to update that because it's old. And I don't know, maybe they did, maybe they got some feedback. And because I've been getting better pitches. Okay. All right, so let's look at Airtable. So here's the Airtable base. One of the things, so I've got two separate interfaces here. One is the episodes, and when someone is invited, this is where they go, right? They get automatically added to this, and we'll have the record date, and then I add them to a slot for the live date, but everything they fill out is here, and then the Google Doc gets added here as well. With the guest applications, anybody who has applied but hasn't been sorted is in uncategorized, and then I have accepted and rejected. So in Airtable, there are also automations based on records, which are super fun. So when a guest is rejected, that's pretty easy, right? I mark them as rejected, and then they get an email saying, "Dear so-and-so, thanks so much. I don't think you're a good fit. People ask me why. I don't send individualized emails, but here's the 3 most common reasons why." Where I'm pretty I'm pretty candid, and I'm like, your pitch probably focused more on how great you are than on what you can do for my guests. And then I mentioned a podcast or a blog post I wrote about how to be a good podcast guest. So that's a pretty simple automation. When a guest is accepted, a couple of things happen here. So let me show you. This is dumb. This is my test data. So stupid. So this is the stuff that gets added. You could see this Calendly link is like super and obnoxious, like super long and obnoxious because like it includes the straight up full bio. But when I click it, it brings me to this Calendly link, Calendly scheduler, where again, all of the information except for the social profiles is filled in because I don't ask for the social profiles up front. So again, this makes, first of all, it makes consistency a lot easier because sometimes like a number of months will go by when someone applies versus when I accept them. And so I want to make sure that they're proposing, that they are applying or scheduling with the same topic they applied to. So this makes it easy. The field is already filled in, right? And that actually doesn't change in Airtable. So like I'll have the canonical topic they've proposed. So that's, and like it's a better user experience, right? Like no one likes to be sent a form that they basically already filled out to have it filled out again. I just signed up. Actually, here's a fun soapbox. I just signed up for Thrivecart. I just learned that their like homepage lifetime deal for a limited time is not a limited time at all. So I just signed up for Thrivecart. If you have questions about why, I'm happy to answer them. I'm just like tired of like shoestringing e-commerce solutions together. But they had me fill out the form to pay. And then they asked me for the same exact data during onboarding. And I'm like, I gave you this already. You should have this. Same exact name, company name, email address, regular address. right? And so I'm like, you already have this. Yeah, you shouldn't be asking me for this again. So I want to make it as easy as possible for my guests to not have to fill in a bunch of data. Okay, so back to this automation. I send the email. I say, congratulations. You have the dubious honor of coming on my podcast. I have an additional comments field here. So like usually it'll be like notes on their application. So if they apply for a bunch of things, I'll say like, you mentioned a bunch of stuff. I really liked this topic, or just so you know, I just had somebody on talking about this. So I would really love if you talked about this, or I like your topic, but like your profile seems like very self-promoty. Don't promote yourself too much or I'm not going to publish the episode. Like that sort of stuff, right? I don't always add those comments, but I wanted the option of doing it, right? And so they get the Calendly link, and then I send them a reminder of what they filled in. And then the link again, just in case, like sometimes it's weird. Or it was weird. I wasn't escaping things properly, and so everything was breaking, but everything should work now. But then the next thing I do is I create their record in the episodes table, right? And so I just basically move everything from the guest applications to the episode. That way, when I do the search here, it gets found and updated. Because again, in the Gravity Forms one, if they apply, they get sent to the guest application section. If they are invited, they get sent to the episodes section. So that's the full automation. Do you have any questions about? I mean, if you go, like, you can actually get a large portion of this database if you go to podcastliftoff.com/freebie, I think is what it is. Usually I do like a customized page. You can get it in Airtable or Notion, yeah. So you can get it there. And I'll add that to the screen right now. Maybe. Probably. I think I could do that. But yeah, if you have any oh, thanks, Emily. So you can get the Airtable bases, of course, like update the email stuff for your own stuff, but you know you have a good starting point there. And it's also in Notion. Like, shout out to Renee Morozowitz, who converted it to Notion for me, because Notion scares and confuses me. And then there's just a Google Sheets version if you want to try Google Sheets. Google Sheets integrates with Make and Zapier, so like you can do all of that stuff inside of Google Sheets as well. But that is really that's the whole automation flow for booking. For booking guests. So what I'll do now, right, is I'll kind of explain my recommended workflow for when you're automating stuff, right? Because I think it's easy to like go in and be like, oh, can I do this? Can I connect these things? And Make / formerly Integromat does make it really easy to visualize this stuff. But I have a giant whiteboard behind me where I like to map stuff out. And I usually like to draw out the flows that way. And so, you know, I drew a little gravity form. What happens if they're invited, right? And then I do have to do it in a few places too, because in the confirmation section, I want them to go someplace based on if they were invited or not. And so when you map something out, either on a whiteboard or on a whiteboard or in some diagramming app, you're coming up with the discrete steps, and then you can check to see if those things are actually possible, right? Because I've been in a situation where like I've been halfway through an automation and I learned that the thing I want to do isn't actually possible, and so I've like wasted a bunch of time. luckily I've usually done that on live streams, so like it's not all lost. But if you're automating on your own, I think like mapping it out, like what do I want the user to do? What do I want to happen here? It's going to make the best possible experience for your users, right? Something I recently didn't do this well with is my email automation in ConvertKit. Like I didn't test it properly, and I just kind of made some assumptions, and then people are getting too many emails. So there's a lot of reason that you might want to do that. So those are all my prepared remarks. Are there any questions about automation or podcasting in general that I can answer for y'all?
Thanks so much, Joe. That was awesome. I was over here taking notes, and I was, like the other folks commenting, really impressed with Make. I had not checked that out before, and it looks super cool.
Yeah, I heard about it a while back. Do you know James Rose / Jimmy
Yep.
Rose? Yeah. He mentioned it to me like a couple of years ago, right? He and I, along with Matty Osman, ran like a Zapier meetup group, and like he was talking about Integromat, and I was like, I'm happy with Zapier. And then I listened to an episode. If you really want to dive into the world of automation, I do. Well, I mean, on my podcast, I do a monthly segment called The Automated Solopreneur, but there's a show called The Automators over at automators.fm, where they talk about all sorts of wild automations. And it's David Sparks and Rosemary Orchard. And they did a whole episode on Make. And that like really convinced me because again, Rosemary, who's a programmer, like really speaks to me when she's talking about like automating too much. And she was like, I love Zapier, but like Make is so much cheaper. And
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah. Someone, if I can soapbox for a minute here, like someone got on my case about this because they're like, oh, I tried Make, but like I'd rather just spend the money for Zapier or whatever. Like you got to spend money to make money. And I'm like, no, no one gets wealthy from wasting money. Like, and so yes, like you need to do like a time and cost analysis, but I am saving like 90% from Make, right? Moving from Make or from Zapier to Make.
Really?
Yeah, because again, like it's probably like 80% or whatever, but like I was paying like $75 a month. I was doing monthly. Something else I thought was obnoxious was it's like 30% more to do monthly versus annual. Like they really want you to pay annually. But I don't like to pay annually for stuff anymore because I end up switching from stuff halfway through the year. And then I'm like, well, I've just paid for two things. I've saved no money.
Yeah, exactly.
I've spent more money.
That's the trick.
And so like I thought that was kind of obnoxious, but like I switched to Zapier monthly and my monthly plan was $75. So, I mean like quick math, 10 divided by 75 is 13. So yeah, I'm saving like 87% a month. And Make does like everything I needed to do and more.
That's amazing. And any kind of things to watch out for? We use Zapier and I love it because it's so helpful, right? Just that tool, whether it's Make or Zapier, whatever you're using, but getting into automation and starting to set those things up is just, it's a game changer. And I just always have this fear, and I don't know if other people are there with me, but that because you use it for important things, right? A lot of the stuff that you were going through there that's important. That's integral to your process, right? And you're depending on a third party to make it happen. So I just always have this little fear in the back of my mind that it's going to break. I won't get the notification. I won't notice it. And then all of a sudden everything's, up in the air and a mess.
Yeah. Well, I think I've told this story here, like in the GoWP group before, but like it was November 21, I think. I thought I was getting pretty clever with the cadence blocks form because I thought that the ConvertKit forms were ugly and like they don't do things like pass the referring URL, which like drives me crazy. Like I don't know when someone joins my mailing list unless I create like a UTM code. I don't know like what
Yeah.
blog post got them to sign up, right? And so I was like, oh, I can include this all in Gravity forms or Cadence Blocks forms, and they connect to Zapier. Except I forgot to turn the automation on, and I wasn't storing the data either. So for a month, no one signed up for my mailing list. For a
Oh,
month,
so, and you weren't even able to go into Zapier and be like rerun all of these that didn't
right? It wasn't
go through.
on.
Yeah, it
Like I
wasn't
just
there.
forgot
Oh
to turn it
no.
on.
Yeah.
And then yeah, like if I was using Gravity forms, then I just turned off like store the data, just like pass it directly to ConvertKit. But more likely I was using Cadence blocks, right? And I was just like, yeah, pass it directly to ConvertKit or Zapier. So
Yeah.
definitely like test and verify. Like, I mean, like you saw my test data, it's terrible. But like I had to make sure everything was working.
Yeah.
The other nice thing about Make is that it fails pretty loudly. Like you get multiple emails when an automation fails. And you can go in. So like if I depending on the type of logging, oh, this might look super weird with the split screen. But depending on the type of logging you have turned on, you can get, more or less information here. So like you can see this errored out. I can see the data that was passed, and I can see where it failed. Now the the errors aren't always good because programmers are terrible at writing error messages for some reason. Um, like this invalid formula. Well, I guess that one's fine. I guess this is sent from Airtable, but like sometimes it's like something failed. And I'm like, neat. That's very helpful. But that kind of flow is really nice in Make as well. I think you probably get similar error reporting in Zapier.
You do. I just always have a fear. It's gonna go to my,
Yeah, yeah,
promotions or updates folder, and I'll ignore it and never see
yeah.
it again.
Well, with Make, it's like they're pretty loud about it. You
Yeah,
get
that's
again, you get
awesome.
yeah.
I
So
love
I
that.
really like that as well.
I loved what you were saying at the beginning also. And again, if you're watching and you have questions, feel free to post them, and we'll get them to Joe. Um, but I loved what you were saying at the beginning of the podcast when you were talking about Riverside, and I think it was Riverside making the updates and kind of going for the script a little bit, which is interesting. Can you kind of recap that just a little bit, because I know folks are using the script. I know we've had those conversations in the GoWP Happiness Hours before of folks who have podcasts and how great Descript is. Is now a time that people should be reevaluating and checking out Riverside or are there still differences in what's being offered there with those services?
Um, that's a good question. I don't do too much editing in Riverside, but I think now is probably a good time to make the evaluation and see if it works for yourself, works well for you. I still really like Descript for solo shows, especially because I have all my templates set up there. I obviously don't need to record remotely with somebody, and their ability to make clips is super awesome. I'll actually, you know what? I'll bring it up and I'll kind of share this one weird trick. Um, sorry, Emily, I keep making you like go away. Um, all right, so I'll share the full screen actually. That way, uh, you get like the full effect here because I don't know if I can zoom in into script, but one of the things I really like, right, is if I want to create a clip. So here's an episode I did recently. I just called it like automation potpourri. But let's say I want to make this a clip. I can highlight just this text. I can see how long it is. So that's about a minute, right? Social happiness. Um, and then I can, uh, with this selected, click the crop button here, crop it to a portrait aspect ratio, move it, um, and then accept. And then again, I have this highlighted, right? So highlight that and then add captions. And now I don't know if you could see this changed over here, but this has become like a social clip. And then I can just export that clip, the current selection. And so I still think Descript is easier for that. Now, if I go back to Riverside, I can kind of show you how it works there as well. So again, if I do the profitable podcaster, just because these are a little bit shorter and easier to manage, I can click and zoom in here, edit and create clips. Do I want a story, a post, or a full length, right? So if I just do story, we do have like the whole transcript here, and I can copy the transcript. But again, if I want to do, well, I guess so like selecting this, I can only delete it. Like it still feels a little bit more clumsy. Trying to create the actual clip because I still need to like drag this as far as I can tell. I'm like, yeah, you could see it change, like, which is cool. But like just being able to like highlight the text and say like, yeah, make this a clip. I will say like they do a nice job here in the editor of being able to show tracks and change the layout. Like you can do like a full frame AI where it purportedly changes the view based on who's talking. So I don't know if you can hear me. You shouldn't be able to, but I'm talking here, then it goes to oh, I guess I edited that part, but like this should switch to Trudy, so it doesn't there. Oh, there we go. So there's like a little bit of a delay, but so that's pretty cool. I think if you want to get like something like that going on, I think like the split is fine. Add the background. So like you do have I think a few more options without having to do as much in Riverside, but I still think like creating the clips in Descript by highlighting text is a little bit easier.
Yeah, that was amazing. I love that. And especially if you're trying to repurpose your content for social and share those clips and that sort of thing. That's really cool. Amazing. Awesome. Well, I'm not seeing any questions come in. Again, Joe is going to be joining us. He'll be back again next month. Make sure you sign up for our newsletter if you haven't, so you can get those notifications, or join our Facebook group. So it's the GoWP Digital Agency Owners Facebook community, and you'll get notified for all of that kind of stuff. In there, we always are posting our events there and live streaming there. So yeah, he'll be back. So if you have questions, post them in the Facebook group. Whatever you want, and join us again next week or next month, and we'll be back with Joe for more podcasting and automation tips, tricks, hacks, all the good stuff. Joe, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Emily, and thanks for everybody showing up. Rob, it was good to see you again. And thanks everybody. Todd.
Yeah, thanks to everybody who showed up, and we'll see you all at the next one. Bye.